Okay, good. So, I'm thinking about who the most influential teacher I had was. And as I was saying earlier in the conversation, going through the grades, and I came upon my fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Hample, who was the person who, for a variety of reasons, opened my mind up to the fact that math was a language and not just this crazy collection of numbers for counting and other purposes. She's a pretty amazing lady and made mathematics really real for me, which, again, really gave me another way to think about the world, another way to describe how things work and how they're related to one another. So years pass. Remember, that was fifth grade. I was 11 or 12 years old. Years pass. I go to college. Years pass. I go to graduate school. Years pass. I become a teacher. And I go back to my hometown to be a teacher. And my first classrooms were at kindergartens and schools in parts of that town. And years pass a little bit more, and then I become a member of the teacher union board. And on that board is Mrs. Hample, who, of course, everybody called Betty. I could not bring myself to calling her Betty. And whenever there was a disagreement, she would just look across the table with the look she used when I was 12 to say, "John, really?" So that's my story about my most influential teacher. She really did teach me a lot, both as a young person and as an adult. Transformation comes in so many different ways. As I thought about that, that was an interesting one too for me. I thought about what it was like coming from college and going, into teaching and engaging with my first kindergarten class, a group of kids who were in the community where I was, very, very poor part of town, I'd never really encountered families that lived in houses without, floors. It was dirt floors with their homes. So it was very transformational in that way as a person. It really helped me think about the world in a different way and think about what I could do in the world as a person of impact, because a classroom teacher is pretty important work that you do with people. That was transformational for me. Another was an interesting thing. When I was still teaching kindergarten, but I had a lot of kids in that school who, were not expected to do very well, and certainly not be prepared for first grade. And a group of us teachers kind of figured out a process, actually found an approach to teaching reading that helped kids prepare themselves very, very well. It was not a time in public education when you could be on the wrong side of the phonics versus literacy divide, which some of you who have been teachers will understand what that is. But I was on the wrong side of that divide and thought that it was very important to also expose kids to the constructs of language, all the things that need to go into putting together words and making those words have meaning and those things. So there was a meeting that the district had called because there was quite a controversy going. And I was among the few to stand up and talk about the importance of teaching phonics in addition to everything else, and basically got booed. And the superintendent was there, so was this, the whole array of folks, a couple board members. And the transformational thing for me was being kind of a nobody in this group. There were 1,500 teachers in the school district, that kind of thing. And afterwards, the next day, in my little mailbox, we still had those in those days, at school, was this envelope, and in it was a handwritten note from the superintendent that said, "That took guts." That was cool. I was thinking also, this is a great set of questions that were asked about for this video. The question now to think about is, what's surprising about the leadership journey? And I know I'm sort of, in terms of formal work, toward the end of my career. And one of the things that struck me in thinking about that is how much a person can get done in what seems like an incredibly short time. Don't underestimate the impact of the things you do. They may fly right by you, but sometimes they have lasting impact, and you leave behind a legacy. It's very important to remember. So even those little interactions with people that don't seem important can have an enormous impact on their lives and on yours. Well, you know, it's interesting. So what drove me to want to work for PSESD was basically wanting to expand the impact of the work that I had done with a local school district. That's what I came here to do. What I discovered here was an organization that was interested in making significant change in the life of kids. And for the first time in my experience, has set that goal and supported it with all of its energy, not just sort of saying, we're going to do that, but let's go do the business we've been doing anyway. So what really impresses me about the work that we all do is that we really are focused on helping every single child succeed, and really to close down that opportunity gap which is standing in the way of so many things in this nation. Very powerful mission, and you know, in public education you're working for a pretty powerful thing anyway, which is to help every kid be everything they could be. But this is an organization that is really focusing on a real serious problem, and you know, not completely harnessing, but hasn't been completely successful in harnessing all of its efforts, but it's working toward it. It's actually doing the hard work to get us there. Very, very powerful stuff.